If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Glove Fist. My name is Frank Latirzo, former writer, full-time observer, joined by former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, Jack Hirsch, who wears red sneaks to press conferences. How you doing, Jack?
I do. I tried to compete with Teofimo Lopez, as far as being colorful, but I came off second best.
Jack, I have a pair of red sneaks. I like them.
Yeah, I like them too. I get a lot of words on them coming out, a lot of compliments.
Red is my all-time favorite color.
Look better than I do.
Well, I don't know about that, but I saw the picture you posted from the press conference, and I commented on it. You didn't respond to my comment.
No, I appreciated it. I didn't know.
That's okay.
You're not responding to my boxing knowledge, or you're responding to my shoes. So you left me speechless, Frank.
Jack, I have an hour a week to talk boxing knowledge with you, and that's assuming that we hadn't talked during the week. Hello, Joe Bergman, already starting trouble. Good evening, gentlemen. Eagles will repeat this year.
If people
I don't know about that, Joe, but I'm not willing to give up on my bet. And Jack and I were going to talk some football.
Yeah, if people want to know out there why Frank is in such a good mood, it's directly related to him being a fan of the hottest team in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins, who've been the best team in the NFL the past month. Now, what I want to do, Frank, not only the Dolphins, some other teams for fun, if we had to compare a team to a fighter, you joked around once a while ago when the Dolphins are losing, and you compared.
I said Joe Hip. That was a joke.
No. Now it's my turn to compare the Dolphins to someone. The way they've been playing, I compare them to Jerry Quarry. They're the Jerry Quarry of NFL teams. And let me tell you why, Frank. Before you say
make it good.
Remember when Quarry would lose a fight, people would write him off. And he'd come back and he had this thing going, I'm a new man. I'm more relaxed. I'm more confident. I'm punching harder. I'm mentally cleared.
We even had the new Jerry Quarry for a while.
Tua is mentally cleared. And he's ready maybe to take over as one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. He's mentally cleared. Mike McDaniels, he's like the Boondini Brown, right? Of being in a corner. He knows how to hop up his team. They love him there, the way Ali loved Boondini. So, Frank, a Miami Dolphin fan, I can't say anything good about my New York Jets. I mean, unless I talk about them, the better, even though I'm still a big fan. But your Miami Dolphins are in the hunt for playoff position, and that's what they post on the NFL board. And they're moving quick. Tonight against the Steelers will be really revealing.
All right, Jack. Time is mine now. Number one, poor Jerry Quarry is spinning in his grave for that comparison, because Quarry, outside of Ali and Frazier, could have won the title on any night except against those two guys. The Dolphins are barely the 10th best team in the AFC. They play tonight. And I was telling you before the show, here's a great trend, how you know they're going to lose and eliminate themselves tonight. Number one, it's in December. The Dolphins have a terrible December record. Number two, it's on the road. They're bad on the road. Number three, it's not only on the road, it's on the road against a team who plays in a climate that they have an atrocious record. And I think they've only won, like, in the history of the franchise, maybe 2 or 3 games when the temperature was under freezing. And it's going to be much colder than that tonight. That's number three. Right. It's December. It's on the road. It's on the road against a team with bad weather. And it's also on the road, Jack, against a team that's over 500. The Dolphins are 1-6 this year against teams with a winning record that they played. They build their reputation beating up on your Jets, basically, which is like being the nicest guy on death row. And then I just saw, before I came on the air,
Buffalo Bills, beat the Bills
What?
decisively.
That's their one game. That's
okay,
their one
but the
game.
Bills are part of that winning streak. Come on.
Jack. Okay, fine. But the Dolphins do that every year. They will always beat one team they're not supposed to beat. It happened to be the Bills this year. Okay. But the Steelers tonight have won 22 consecutive home Monday night games. So the Dolphins, with their wannabe cool coach and their quarterback who's barely a backup, they lose tonight. And the only thing I can hope for is that they lose badly, so there's no chance that
Joe.
people will bring that coach and quarterback back.
Tonight's fight, the Pittsburgh Steelers are Ron Lyle, the Miami Dolphins are Jerry Quarry. People thought Lyle would dispose of Quarry. He's on the comeback, and you saw what happened there. This is Quarry Lyle revisited with the Dolphins being Quarry.
How about if we go this way? I'll buy the Steelers or Ron Lyle, but I think the Dolphins are Brian London.
Okay, I guess we can move on from football, maybe. But then again,
anything else?
When it comes to boxing, it's a bit of a gimmick too. I mean, we have the biggest boxing event to talk about, Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, and it's intriguing, Frank.
Are you going to watch it?
It's on Netflix. Why wouldn't I watch it? I don't have to get it pay-per-view. If it's not on pay-per-view, I'll watch it. I'm not sure what to make out of it, but I kind of feel it's going to be 100% legit. And you see pictures of Jake Paul. He's brought in all these big sparring partners like Jared Anderson, Lawrence Okolie. He's brought in serious sparring partners, guys who can fight, guys who have pedigree. This is no joke. I kind of wonder how he did in those sessions, whether they felt they had to lay off him, just push him just enough. Because remember when we had Paulie Malignaggi on our show, he was in camp sparring with Conor McGregor. And he said he couldn't say it at the time, but he said on our show he sucked. He couldn't fight at all. But he didn't say that at the time. So I don't think these guys are going to be honest. Maybe down the road, they'll be honest what they really thought of.
And notice no film has leaked out of those sparring sessions, so that tells you something there. Jack, I don't know what to make of it because these exhibitions, I just don't know. All I can say is this.
It's a real fight, supposedly, but why is it 8 rounds if it's a real fight?
Exactly. Okay, and how big are the gloves they're wearing?
I think I might be wrong. I think 10 ounce. I might be wrong. Wrong. Don't hold me to it. But I can't imagine someone of Anthony Joshua's stature, even if it's 180 million, whatever, agreeing to be timid to the point where Paul could get the better of him, like backing off enough. Well, listen, I think Tyson Paul was legitimate in the sense that Tyson was just too old, whatever. Whether Paul tried hard, whether Paul could have done more with Tyson, I'm not sure. Maybe he was part of the strategy. Maybe he was a little scared of Tyson and figured I'm going to just box my way to a comfortable decision. Or maybe he showed compassion, or maybe they had some side agreement before. I have no idea.
So Jack, how can you tell? How can we formulate an opinion? You said it's supposed to be a fight. Look, Ngannou and Joshua was a fight. I'm not convinced this is, and I did see something today where it was written in the contract that Joshua can't go all out. Do I know that that's true or not? I don't know. And the thing is, I really don't know. The only thing I can say is this. If Joshua goes out Jake Paul like he did Francis Ngannou, it should not go past the first round. It should not go past the first round because Paul's not a hard guy to hit, and Joshua with a right hand is a very big puncher, and he should be able to put Paul to sleep. But again, Jack, if he does, what does that do for Paul's brand?
Wait. We don't know. We don't know about Paul's durability. We really don't. For all we know, he could take a heck of a punch. He can't get hit a lot by a much bigger Joshua, because just because Joshua land some hard hooks, it doesn't mean Paul's automatically going to go out. You
I
know,
just think if Paul had that kind of a chin, Jack, he would be fighting better guys than he has up until this point.
I don't think it's a chin. I think it's the entertainment factor. But the point is,
Well, that too.
Paul's all over the place, from Tank Davis, a little guy, to Joshua, big
That's
guy.
crazy.
But I can understand Tank Davis agreeing. You're going to pay me over 100 million. I'll ease off. I'll fight to a draw with you for 100 million. I don't care for that type of money. Something strikes me about Joshua, despite his inactivity, that he has a certain amount of pride. He's not going to take a back seat to Paul. This is the same Anthony Joshua who, outside of Deontay Wilder, who he ducked through Eddie Hearn, basically ducked the fight with Deontay when Deontay was at his best. He's taken on everyone. He gave Usyk a shot when he didn't have to. He enforced the rematch clause with Usyk. I mean, he takes on
Jake Paul. I mean, Joshua has guts, Jack. I don't have confidence in him in a big spot, but this is one time that he should go in the ring totally confident, without any fear, and he's just so much better. So I will say it right now: if that fight, if the bell rings for the second round, I'm disappointed in Joshua, because I'm sorry, these guys are they're completely different level fighters. Okay, Paul is pretty good against limited opposition, and he might be the toughest guy at the cookout, on the block cookout, the block party. But Josh was a different level. It should not go long, Jack. It should be a blowout.
I think it's going to go a few rounds, and Josh will stop Paul in a few rounds.
But we'll be able to tell if he was going easy on him.
I can see Joshua biding his time in the first round. Look, if the opportunity,
I don't think that's a reach.
If the opportunity presents itself to hit Paul with his hardest punch, he'll do it. But I think Joshua's going to be a little leery himself in the first round, because he's going to think, I don't want to get caught with something crazy. He's probably looked at some of the tapes and sees, Paul can whack pretty good with the right hand. Now,
Jack, different level. Different level. It's a different level.
Different levels. But
he wasn't even tickling his 60-year-old Tyson.
He wasn't trying to. He was just, he had too much respect for Tyson. Look, if Jake Paul, let me put it this way to you, Frank. If Jake Paul could have knocked out Tyson for the full count or let it go to distance and win a decision, he would have rather let it go to distance. He didn't want to.
He might not have wanted to take a chance and gamble. I'll go along with that.
No, not just a chance. He had too much respect for Tyson and liked him too much,
Jack, you can say that, but again, this is a fight. We don't know. We don't know with these exhibitions, and that's what they are. They're exhibitions, and Lehman Pauly maybe said it best. It ends when AJ says it ends. He won't try and kill the kid, but he ends it with a body shot in the second round. Okay.
I could see it going 4 or 5 rounds. Joshua basically doing little the first round. I could see him treating it like a sparring session for 2-3 rounds, staying ahead of Paul, winning the rounds, and then when he starts opening up, I could see Paul giving him a round and a half extra when Joshua is opening up. Paul moving around, using the ring, showing some durability. So I'm going to go with Joshua really, in 4 or 5 rounds. It'll be one of those endings where the ref will save Paul. I don't think they're going to allow Paul to take much punishment. And as soon as he knocks Paul down and Paul gets up, Paul might get the quick hook in this fight so he doesn't get hurt also.
How you doing, Al? Thanks for the warm wishes. Same to you. Merry Christmas, Jack. I just have a hard time getting a read on this because I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a real fight. All I can say is this. If it's a real fight, Paul gets mutilated. If Josh wants to carry him for a little bit, I'll go with that. But there's no way Paul can be competitive or win. And if he does, Joshua has to hang him up.
Let me throw the unthinkable at you. Let's say, I know you see no way Paul can win. And I'm not picking Paul to win. Believe me, I'm picking Joshua in a few rounds because I think I don't think Joshua is going to go all out in the beginning. I think he's going to be content for round or two, just to pop him with the jab, stay in front of him. And I think he'll open up in the third, fourth round, and then it'll go maybe one extra round, and then Paul will have to be saved. But
They say it's a real fight, Jack. Look, see, Holmes says they say it's a real fight, but I don't believe what they say. They can say anything.
Paul wins. What happens if the unthinkable happens and Paul wins? How would you feel about Paul getting a shot at Usyk if he knocked Joshua?
I mean, Jack, if that happens, I can't argue with that. But if that happens, Anthony Joshua has to go down as the biggest myth, disgrace, and fraud in heavyweight history.
Anthony Joshua is long in the tooth. He got knocked out in his last fight. He's coming off a knockout loss.
But Dubois is a real fighter, Jack, and he's a heavyweight, and we know he can punch. Jake Paul couldn't tickle Tommy Fury.
Jake Paul can punch a bit with the right hand.
Jack, he can punch, but what's the metric? He can punch if he's hitting me or you. But can he punch against a guy like that? I haven't seen it.
Well, I will say that that's alarming. Looking at the picture of Paul next to the heavyweights, I don't care how much weight he put on. He looked like a little guy next to sparring partners, and he looked fatigued. I mean, I give Paul virtually no chance. And the reason I use the word virtually is because I think at this stage in his career, Joshua is a businessman more than a fighter. He only will fight once in a while, just look for the big money. He's not, I think Paul at this stage of his career is more of a dedicated fighter than Joshua is. How about that? More dedication for Paul.
But Jack, it shouldn't make a difference because one guy was a legit world-class fighter. I don't know how much of that guy remains, but the other guy's not.
4 rounds. Joshua stops him in 4 rounds. That'll be my prediction.
I can't make a prediction, Jack, because I don't know what it is. I can just say, all I'll say is this. If it's for real, and we'll be able to tell, Paul should go to sleep. But don't you think the bigger issue is that we're talking about these kind of fights when we have it's like a lot of guys like to put down the fighters of today, but there are some elite fighters in the world today that are boxing, and we just don't see them fight. Like Lopez and Shakur, that's a legitimate fight. That's one that there's a 50-50 case. The styles clash. They're both at the same point in their career. Lopez may need it actually a little bit more, need the win. But it's like the idea that we're talking about these gimmick fights. Could you imagine when Holmes was champ?
Frank,
so it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. Boxing, professional boxing is a gimmick.
Frank, it is. It is, unfortunately. Boxing is a gutter sport now. It's a gutter sport. The way it's administered, and I could point to one legit fighter in Ryan Garcia. Just look at his history. He's a steroid cheat. Didn't make the weight. Had the victory over Devin Haney taken away from him. Okay?
Social media phenom.
And he suspended a year. Okay?
He wouldn't have fought anyhow.
He comes back from his suspension and is beaten soundly by Raleigh Romero, an ordinary fighter. And he gets a title shot. I mean, it was funny once Jack Obermeyer showed me a record book, Frank. It was, remember late Jack Obermeyer, who attended every KOJO. I forgot who the fighter was, but he pointed to his record. It kept saying this was one of the funniest things I ever heard, and I forgot the fighter. Lost, title shot. He was fighting for some belt. And we were like doubling over, like laughing. The guy lost like about 7 fights in a row, and he's fighting for some version of a world title. It was insanity.
Jack, but if you lose to a real good guy, and that happened all through history, if you lose to a top 10 guy and you're a top 10 guy, but you make a good showing, look, we know Ron Lyle lost to Jimmy Young and got a shot against Ali.
No, I didn't. But wait, I didn't finish. But Garcia's getting a title shot now. Gets Mario Barrios. So Barrios is no more than a mediocre belt holder. He's not that good. I mean, he got fought a draw with a 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao. Most people think Pacquiao edged the fight out. But the point is, Garcia gets suspended a year for, steroid use, and then loses a fight decisively in its first fight back, and is rewarded with a title shot. And Garcia is one of the big names in the sport. He's in demand,
and that's why
for a huge
you get that
payday,
shot.
because it's entertainment to people. I was speaking, the names of Jake Paul, Ryan Garcia, you think of entertainment with those guys. They draw people that way.
But we know Garcia is a world-class fighter. That we know. World-class in this world.
Not anymore, he's not.
Jack, I'm going to pick him to beat Mario Barrios. Are you going to pick against him?
Mario Barrios is not a good fighter. I mean, he's
okay.
When I say not, I mean he's mediocre. I mean,
okay, but he's maybe one of the 5 best at the weight, right?
He's a good fighter, just not on a championship level good. That's what I meant.
Well, today he has a belt, so Garcia is going to get that belt.
But he might.
You could say, what does it mean? But he's going to get the belt, and that's all he cares about.
It's hard for me to pick Barrios over any really good fighter. Garcia, my guess is, he would beat Barrios. He's going to beat Barrios. But why isn't Garcia back with Rolly Romero, who's just a better than average fighter, no more than that?
Probably because the risk is not there, and the risk might be a little too high for the reward, and there's nothing for him to gain by beating Rolly Romero conclusively. That's just the world that we live in. Look, we talk about this all the time. Look at Terence Crawford and Canelo. I told you before the fight, I said they're going to have a rematch, because if Crawford wins, there's going to be a rematch, because there's nowhere for either one of those guys to go. Crawford's not going to fight Boots or Ortiz. Okay, he'll go for the middleweight belt, but I don't know how much money's there and what that does for his legacy. We know that Canelo's not going to fight Bivol or Benavidez. Where is he going to go? He can't fight a cheese guy again. He's going to have one more big fight against Crawford. He's going to lose a decision by a wider margin this time, and he's going to say, "Hey, look, you know what? This guy's probably the best fighter the last 25 years. He beat me by 2 decisions. I think I did okay for the sport. I'm out." So it's like that's where we are. It's what do you have to gain? And that's why it's easy to see when guys are going to fight. We talked about it with Mayweather and Pacquiao. They had nowhere to go. Well, why do you think Shakur and Lopez are fighting? Because where do they have to go? Eventually, they have to step up.
Lopez could have fought Haney. Lopez could have told Turkey, I can't say his name, His Excellency. I can never pronounce his
Call him
last
Turkey.
name. Turkey. Turkey tried to make a Lopez-Haney fight, and Lopez just hemmed and hawed and eventually didn't take the fight. And now he's taking a harder fight. This is a more difficult fight for him than fighting Devin Haney. Shakur Stevenson might be.
It's a harder fight to him look good and to be dominant, and I'll give you that.
Right, exactly, and that's why I kind of wonder. I mean, I gotta give it to the Lopez's. They're taking the hardest possible fight because they couldn't get Boots Ennis in the ring. So this guy is looking to really take on the best. And now he says if he beats Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo, he wants Crawford. He says, I can jump up the weight divisions.
Teofimo wants Crawford if he beats
Shakur Stevenson.
Shakur.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? Shakur and Crawford are fun after the fight. Our friends after the fight. Shakur will tell Crawford, not that Crawford needs to be told this. It's easy money, but I'm sorry. Even if he beats Shakur, Teofimo brings nothing to the table to excite Crawford. They're never going to fight.
Teofimo, you give him an audience. He's charismatic, entertaining. He wasn't promoted to the hilt. After he beat Lomachenko, he should have been a megastar in the boxing industry. He was charismatic. He had a bad boy image. He brought a lot of attention onto himself, and he backed it up in the ring. And it just
against Lomachenko, he did.
Yeah, but it hasn't worked out where,
No, he
you
sat
know,
on the shelf too long, Jack. A lot of guys don't cash in off of a big win like that. He sat on the shelf too long. He
well,
hurt himself because these
I
guys don't
know,
fight.
I know about a year and a half, about 15 months ago, I could say it now. His dad, Lopez Sr., who we had on the show, told me all their attention was going towards a fight with Ryan Garcia. That's the one they wanted because they
I'd
realized
love to see
the,
that fight.
the personalities and everything. It would have been big, the trash talking, the this, the that. But I'll tell you, there hasn't been much trash talking with Teofimo and Shakur. Shakur saying, "What's wrong with you, Tio? I mean, I want to see you be yourself. Talk nasty to me, and now you've been too nice." And Lopez
All
is
right,
kind of
Jack.
calm about it.
These guys, and I hope Lehman Paulie is still on. And Little Holmes, we have a
Lyndon Paulie knows how to pick fights. Not that Joe Bergman doesn't. Joe's good too. But Lyndon Paulie
knows how to pick fights.
Yeah, Lyndon Paulie.
Does getting the right count?
No, I see when
Lehman Paulie's a good fight picker, and so is Joe Bergman. But
both of them are.
But Lehman Paulie's going to have Lehman. If you're watching, buddy, sit down because I'm going to bring a segment to Jack and all the viewers here. It's something I thought of because there's just not much going on, and it's just a little bit different. Now, I don't care whatever the sport is. Sometimes you just know, even if things don't add up, you know that X can beat Y, and you just know that even if you go against the conventional wisdom, you know that fighter A is going to win over fighter B. And Jack, that fight essentially right there was no doubt in my mind that Frazier was going to win. However, I came up with 5 fights between near equal guys, either near greats or all-time greats, that there's nothing on this earth that could change my mind about who wins the fight. So I'm going to give you my first one, and then I want you to give me yours. You give me one, and then I'll give you another one. You muted yourself, Jack. You muted yourself.
Yeah. I haven't had a chance to prepare, but
it's not a big deal.
Guys, no. I'm going to do this, Frank. But both of them are at their absolute best in their primes. Do we agree?
I'm going to give you my example, and once I give you my first example, you'll know exactly how to go about it. Okay?
Sure.
Okay. Now, we've talked about this one a lot, and I think most people are in line with me, but I don't care because there's no doubt in my mind. But if Ron Lyle and Ken Norton were meeting at their best, I would bet everything I own that Ron Lyle would not just beat Ken Norton, but he would stop him inside of 5 rounds. And that's one of the most, of all the hypothetical fights I could think of, I have no doubt that Lyle's demeanor, his style, his power, again, Norton being a little bit unsure of himself against big, mean guys that can really hit. I think Lyle takes Norton, and I think he stops him. I couldn't be any more sure of a fight than I am that. The only way I could be convinced, Jack, that Norton could win is if they actually fought and Norton won.
Well, I disagree. I'll admit Lyle would be a very serious threat. Now, I saw Lyle in his 4th pro fight at Sunnyside Gardens. I saw him when he was young. Lyle is the big puncher, supposedly. Now, if you told me Ernie Shavers at his best, that would be different, I think Shavers gets Norton out of there at his very best.
Well, they both fought at the same point in their career.
Lyle was a very hard puncher, as George Foreman always said. He had him down a couple of times. I don't see that explosiveness quite the way other people do. He stopped Ernie Shavers because Shavers got tired in the 6th round and faded out. And Lyle hit him, and Shavers went down face first. It wasn't the power that did Shavers in. It was fatigue.
Jack, they traded that whole fight.
Against Ali, he never landed a punch that hurt or shook Ali.
No.
Tactically smart.
So you could say, but who did better against Foreman? So it's like,
Jerry,
but
he didn't phase Jerry Quarry with his power, but Quarry had a great chin.
and Quarry was a much better fighter when he fought Lyle than when he fought Norm. But so look, Jack, the point is that's one of my fights.
Okay.
There's no doubt who wins. Give me one of yours, and I'll see. Maybe I'm on the same side as you. What's
Well,
a fight
yeah,
that you
I
think
you
that
will.
these guys got together? There's no doubt.
Okay, one of them, the two guys at their absolute peak. I have on Fight of the Century, Smoking Joe Frazier against Holyfield at his best. I have no doubt, style-wise, Frazier at his absolute best grinds Holyfield down to defeat.
Jack, that I'm so glad you said that because they happen to be two of my all-time favorites.
Me too.
If you told me that they were fighting at their best, if it's the 71 Frazier, I'm probably going to lean towards him. But if it's not the 71 Frazier, maybe Frazier between 69 and 71 versus Holyfield 90 to 93.
Frazier, the first Ellis fight and the Ali fight. Put it that way.
Okay. Jack, if you put a gun to my head, I would take Frazier, but I wouldn't bet on it. But that's one where why are you so, what is it about that fight that you're so certain that Holyfield would win?
is picking Frazier on points, but I don't see Holyfield being able to go the full 15 rounds against that Frazier.
So that's what it is. That's why you're convinced Frazier would win that fight.
Yeah, well, Star Wars, where's Holyfield going to go? He's not going to circle the ring and box him the whole fight. He's going to go toe-to-toe for large segments of the fight. And he's not going to hurt
don't you think?
Frazier badly.
All right, and I'll do what you do, Jack. I'll play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
When you say that Holyfield is a bigger, stronger version of Jerry Quarry, and they kind of both like to counterpunch, but they like to go to war. And if Quarry could fight Frazier pretty close for, say, 3 or 4 rounds, and Holyfield could maybe do a little better.
3 or 4 rounds. He fought him two rounds were close at their peak.
Well, Quarry won the first 2 rounds, but he was in the 3rd and 4th.
Quarry didn't win the second round. Frazier edged that round out.
I thought Quarry had the second round.
No.
I think on the scorecards, Frazier got it, but I actually thought Quarry won the round.
Okay.
Well, that's my best argument, Jack, to try to convince you on that. All right, I'll give you my second one. There's no doubt in my mind if these two guys, well, one guy doesn't have to be at his best, but for the sake of this argument, let's just say they're in their prime. There's no doubt in my mind that George Foreman would beat Mike Tyson quicker and easier than he beat Joe Frazier. So you give me Tyson of Spinks and Foreman of the first Frazier fight, Jack, you couldn't convince me.
He knocked him down 6 times in the first 2 rounds.
He would have to knock Tyson down 6 times. 2 times and it would be over.
Okay, I mean, I think it would be a tougher fight, and I think Tyson would represent a much greater threat than that version of Frazier. Tyson
really
a far more explosive puncher than Frazier. Okay, so I think Tyson would have represented a serious threat. With that said, I would pick Foreman to win that fight. Style-wise, everything involved. But I'm not dismissing it all. Easy work. It's straightforward, no doubt about it. I mean,
yeah. See, I don't think Tyson wins 30 seconds of that fight. All right, give me one, Jack.
Tyson and Larry Holmes, style-wise, they could fight 10 times. Holmes in his prime at his best never beats Tyson at his best. Maybe Holmes, out of the 10 fights, goes the distance 3 or 4 times and loses by a wide margin. He just doesn't beat Tyson. It just doesn't happen. Not the best of Mike Tyson. Not the Tyson that actually beat an older version of Holmes. Now, it's easy to say Holmes was diminished. Look what Holmes did after that loss to Tyson. He was highly competitive with Holyfield, Oliver McCall, beat Ray Mercer. Tyson beat a good version of Larry Holmes, not a peak version of Larry Holmes because he was older, but it was still a good version who he
Okay.
obliterated him.
And my counter argument to that would be Holmes was 38. What do you think would happen if the Holmes that fought the Tyson who was 37 when he fought Kevin McBride? Who'd win that fight?
The fighters age differently. I'm going to put it, I could give you an example. Do you think for 1 second the Holmes that struggled with Jerry Cooney could have beaten Mike Tyson? And that was a peak Larry Holmes. And that's an untested Jerry Cooney, whose whole career is based, in large part on that fight.
Jack, from what I saw of Larry Holmes against Cooney and what I saw Buster Douglas do to prime Tyson, I'm sorry. I'll say this. I think Tyson has the style to give Holmes trouble. But if you told me they're both at their best, you give me Holmes from Cooney and Tyson against Spinks or Tony Tubbs or whatever, I disagree with you. I'm taking Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to go for my third one. And I have 5. This one, Jack, I know that I'm in the minority, but I don't care. David Tua would mutilate Mike Tyson because I hear all these guys talk about, well, Tyson has better hand speed and he's a better boxer. Yes, and he's actually a better fighter. But when they fought, Tyson's boxing and hand speed would never come into play because they would trade and it would come down to who had a bigger heart, Tua, a bigger punch, Tua, and a better chin, Tua. I think there are a lot of guys. I don't think Tua would win one round against Muhammad Ali or Larry Holmes, where I think Tyson would give them both trouble. But against each other, I bet my life that David Tua would stop Mike Tyson.
You're having a Tyson feast. Everyone beats Tyson. Tyson's chopped liver.
No. Tyson's one of the top 10 greatest heavyweights ever.
Foreman, Holmes, Tua. Who does Tyson beat in your view? I mean, come on. Are you going to tell me next, he'll beat Floyd Patterson and Ingemar Johansson? Is that what I'm going to hear next?
I'm going to tell you, Jack, I have Tyson ranked in the bottom of the top 10, and I have Foreman and Holmes both in the top 5. As far as David Tua goes, I just think that's just one of those things where it's a bad style. Norton gives Ali trouble, but Norton's nowhere near one of the top 15 heavyweights ever. And Ali may be number 1. Who would you take, Tua or Tyson?
Wow, I will agree with you this. It's really a bad style matchup for Tyson because Tua was a devastating puncher. Tyson
great chin.
Be there to get hit at a certain point in the first couple of rounds.
I never saw Tua break. I saw Tyson break. Okay. Jack, give me one because I have 2 more.
I mean, I'm doing this off the top of my head.
Right.
Sonny Liston would beat Rocky Marciano, I think, all the time. Because Rocky Marciano was the type of fighter who would get better as the fight went along. He wasn't a particularly quick starter. Don't tell me about the rematch with Joe Walcott. He knocked him out in the round. I know he knocked out Harry Matthews in 2 rounds. But Rocky Marciano's thing was grinding opponent into defeat. And against Liston, I don't think he had that chance to get going because Liston's attack was ferocious. He had the great jab. Liston was a tremendously quick starter. Marciano was a bit of a slow starter. So I think Sonny would have cut him up and stopped him, 5, 6 rounds or whatever.
Okay. At one time, I was certain, and Sonny Liston's also one of my favorites. I was absolutely certain, and I was in the same pew as you. But over the years, I backed off on that a little bit, Jack, because Liston doesn't come out like Foreman. He's more of a boxer than a slugger. I know he has the jab, but I do think Marciano could get inside, and I think if he could get to the 7th or the 8th round, I think he'd have a good chance. Would I pick him to win? No. But, you don't think Tyson is as much in over his head against Foreman as I do. I don't think Marciano is as in over his head as some do. The pick would be Liston, but I wouldn't rule out. I wouldn't rule out Marciano winning, Jack. And if I had to bet on the fight, I think I would sit it out. All right, I'll give you my next one. Okay, assuming that these two guys are at their peak, and this is going to hurt one of our viewers right now, but I got to call it the way I see it. There is no doubt in my mind that Smokin' Joe of March 8th, 1971 beats Larry Holmes from any night of his career. I think Frazier does the same thing to Holmes that he did to Ali, only I don't think Holmes can take it to the body as good as Ali. I don't think he takes it to the chin as good as Ali. And I don't think he's as physically strong as Ali. And every fighter who pressured Holmes, maybe with the exception of Ray Mercer, gave him death and taxes. I think Joe gets under that jab, bangs him to the body, and by the 9th round, Holmes is slowed to a walk. And I think Frazier either stops him late or Holmes hangs on to win, to lose a decision. And one more thing. Some people will say, well, Holmes has a better jab than Ali. Holmes has a straighter jab than Ali, and it's a little harder. But Ali's jab had more variance and was harder to slip and get under. I think Frazier takes that jab away, and I think Smoke from 69 to 71 beats any version of Larry Holmes. But historically, I have Holmes ranked a little higher.
You know, a weird thing is that Holmes was a chief sparring partner for both guys when he was a young fighter. And when Holmes became a great champion, established, and even after he retired, he had this thing about Ali. He liked Ali. Ali was his friend, but he'd always say, you know, he could have beaten Ali, the best version of Ali. But if they'd ask him, could you have beaten the best version of Joe Frazier? Holmes's attitude was, he'd say, wow, that would be a tough fight. He wouldn't want to ever say he could beat Joe because he liked Joe more. For some reason, he said it best, Holmes. He says, if Ali needs me for anything, I'll be there in a minute. If Frazier needs me for anything, I'll be there in a second. That was his way of putting it. But
and Jack, I'm going to tell you why I think Holmes said that. Because first of all, Holmes was a little further along. He worked with Frazier in 72 to 74, and then he went with Ali late 74 to maybe early 76. The other thing is Frazier would spar and train like he fought. He would be all out trying to kill you. Where Ali wasn't always the best guy in the gym and didn't try to beat you up or work you over. So I could see why he would, reverting back saying like Joe might be the tougher night. But I just think it's a style thing. I think pressure guys give Holmes trouble, and I think Frazier was the best at that. All right, give me one.
I'm going back a ways to the biggest hypothetical matchup, arguably in boxing history, that no one talks about anymore because it's.
Wait, let me see if I can guess it. Heavyweight?
Yeah.
Heavyweight?
You'll guess it.
Jeffries and Johnson?
No. I'm surprised you missed it. Dempsey and Lewis.
Oh, my next would have been Ali and Lewis. I forgot about Dempsey. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, that was the biggest hypothetical fight.
It was.
History
in the 30s and 40s, it was.
No, in the 70s.
Even the 50s.
70s, it was big. It was the biggest talk, but, it aged out. The ironic part about it is Nat Fleischer, who'd always go for the old timers, and Dempsey was a fighter, who came before Lewis by about
15 years.
15 years, approximately. He won the title in 1919. Lewis won in 1937, 18 years later. So Nat Fleischer, who always favored old timers, had Dempsey rated number 4, Lewis number 6. But I remember him when they had that computer tournament with with 16 heavyweights, and they met in that computer tournament, Dempsey and Lewis, and they asked Fleischer before the fight, who do you think would have won that fight? and he says he thinks Lewis would have won the fight. He says because of his ring generalship, you know? So I kind of agree on that. Lewis was technically better. Dempsey was a savage. He'd come at you. He was a more explosive puncher than Lewis, I would say. For one shot, more explosive. But Lewis was a better all-around puncher, the way he put his punches together. I think Lewis was a real ring general, the way he fought. Very underrated as a ring general.
Lewis is the best technical, maybe the best technical fighter I've ever seen.
Okay, there you go. There you go. But you can hit Lewis with right hands. That's the thing about it. But I would
Okay,
go
so you
with
favor Lewis.
Ring generalship, yeah. Lewis would have stopped him, you know, maybe 7-8 rounds of that bout.
Are you as confident of that as you are Frazier beating Holmes?
Frazier had his, nah. The Lewis and the Max Baer fight, I am. He was phenomenal in that fight. Phenomenal. Okay.
It's funny. I think that was only his 20th fight, wasn't it, Jack?
Frazier of March 8th, 1971. Holmes would have nowhere to go. He's not going to knock that Frazier out.
No. You said one of your fights was, you said you have no doubt Frazier beats Holyfield.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm asking you, what are you more sure of? Frazier beating Holyfield or Lewis beating Dempsey?
Frazier at his best beating Holyfield. I'm more confident of that, only because where's Holyfield going to go? Holyfield, if he's forced to, he always exchanges punches. Holyfield will go toe to toe with anyone. Holyfield's not going to dance away the whole fight and just box and jab and hold.
And so you don't think he could hurt Joe either?
No. I don't think so. No, Joe was unstoppable of the first Ellis fight and the first Ali fight. He was unstoppable. It would take a George Foreman or Sonny Liston type, you know, to maybe undo Frazier, you know.
To slow him down. You got to hurt Frazier. You got to hurt him before he gets inside. I'm not sure Holyfield is that guy.
I'm not sure that Liston could have done it, but maybe he could have.
As far as Lewis and Dempsey, I've always said that Joe Louis and George Foreman were the two most dangerous guys to attack, to carry the fight to. You take the fight to them, they don't have to look for you. Foreman with that brutal power in either hand and that monster strength, and Lewis with those precision uppercuts and hooks and chopping right hands. So I think taking the fight to Lewis is basically suicide. But Dempsey does come in fast, and everybody knows him for his left hook. But like you said, Lewis could be hit with a right hand, and Dempsey could get his right hand in. I've always favored Lewis, Jack, but that's another one of those fights. If you said, Frank, look, you got to pick the winner, I'm gonna pick Lewis. If you say, Frank, you have to bet on the fight, and you have to bet, I'm going to bet on Lewis. But unless you force me to bet on the fight or give me the money to bet on the fight, I would probably sit it out. I favor Lewis, but I see a path for Dempsey.
Yeah, I definitely see a path for Dempsey. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, but you know, I think Lewis would. Yeah, if they fought 10 times, Lewis wouldn't win all 10. How about that?
Okay, I'm not sure I agree, but I can definitely see that. All right, Jack, my fifth one, Joe Bergman. You called it, and I said I saved this one for last. Jack, there is no doubt in my mind, at their best, Terrence Crawford beats Floyd Mayweather at 35, 40, and at 47, he runs away with the fight. I don't care if they fight 10 times. I think Terrence Crawford, aside from Tommy Hearns, may be the worst possible matchup for Floyd Mayweather that I can think of. I just don't know what Floyd does. They can talk about his shoulder roll and his defense. Crawford has an answer for everything. He's got two good sides. He's a harder puncher. He's meaner. He's every bit as smart and he's every bit as versatile. I just think that his aggression and his physical strength, I just think he beats the crap out of Mayweather and might even stop him, but he beats him. And if it goes the distance, there's nobody saying after the fight, that fight could have been going either way. No, Crawford takes Mayweather apart and beats him. He's the better fighter under every metric.
I'm not as carried away as you are. Mayweather is such a great defensive fighter. There's no way Crawford walks through him. Just absolutely no way. And there's no way it would be a one-sided
Not walks
fight.
through him, Jack. Not walks through him, but overwhelms him, and beats him up. Not as bad as he did Spence, but the longer the fight goes after the fifth round, the more distance he puts between them. And at the end of the fight, nobody will say Mayweather was the better fighter.
I could see a nip and tuck fight, perhaps, because Crawford does give away rounds. He doesn't mind figuring a guy out.
Jack, he didn't give rounds away against Canelo. I think it depends on the opponent. If he feels a threat, a guy like Mayweather, he's not going to give rounds away.
He actually did lose a few rounds in the fight against Canelo. There's this narrative,
but he didn't give them away, Jack.
Lopsided decision over Canelo. There's this narrative, but in reality, it was an 8-rounds-to-4 fight. Now Crawford was over, and Crawford really needs to win the last 2 rounds to remove any doubt. And even then, 2 of the judges had only 2 points, and the other judge had it 4 points the way I did. Crawford could say all he wants. I didn't lose any rounds, but that's just not true.
Jack, after the 4th round, was there any doubt in your mind that Crawford was going to win?
I thought he'd win beforehand. No, I mean, he was always a step ahead of Canelo, it seemed. It just seemed that way. But Crawford could be lackadaisical in not being concerned about winning rounds. Like, I was in Vegas when he fought Sean Porter. He stopped him in the 10th round. He was only up 5-rounds-to-4.
5-4. That's how I had it.
He wasn't concerned, Crawford. He's the type of guy who knows I can make it all up very quick. He wouldn't
approach Mayweather like that, Jack.
Floyd was a great fighter at his best. At his very best.
He was a great, all-time great, no doubt. I just think Crawford was greater under any metric. I'll give you one. My buddy gave me, because we were doing this on the phone the other night. He had Hearns Mayweather. He had Tyson Johnson. He had Frazier Johnson. But here's one that doesn't get talked about much, and there's a pretty good amount on one side, but there are guys picking the other guy. He said there's no doubt Sugar Ray Leonard beats Jose Napoles. What do you think? Obviously at 47.
It's funny. I was asked to take part in a hypothetical welterweight tournament years ago. It was a block of welterweights of 30 years, matchups, who would win. Myself and 2 other riders, and best 2 out of 3, they would advance in the tournament. I was the only one who picked in the matchup Shane Mosley over Napoles. At the time, Mosley was unbeaten.
I picked him too.
Understand that. Don't talk. Now I would pick Napoles. Okay.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, but at that point, Mosley was looking like he was a star, like maybe the next Sugar Ray Leonard or whatever. And I just thought he hit a little too quick. And I know Napoles was great, but I think, I asked Angelo Dundee train both guys. Well, he was more like a cut man for Napoles. He was more a cut man, but he was a steady cut man for the most part, except when Napoles lost the title. I want to get to that area in 1 second quickly before I forget. I don't know why one thing linked to the other, and I should have mentioned this at the start of the show. But let me just finish my statement. He said it would have been a murderous fight. The guy who managed, Billy Backus, who won the title on a cut
over Napoles.
And he also managed a while and was involved with Carmen Basilio at a point in Basilio's career. Tony Graziano passed away at age
At
103.
103.
103. He was a big part of the Boxing Hall of Fame weekend with his, his restaurant there and all, and
Yep.
kind of, wonderful guy. One, service, war veteran, everything. One of the great guys, who contributed to boxing history, boxing upstate. I'm going to give you the fifth fight, my final fight here. Quickly, you're not going to like this. At middleweight, Monzon over Sugar Ray Robinson. Question of styles. The Robinson of the late 50s who fought Basilio and Fulmer. I think Monzon is a stylistic nightmare for him. Poking him with the long jab, getting through that. I think that's a style. At that point in Robinson's career, he was still top of the line. Don't get me wrong. When he KO'd Fulmer, beat Basilio, but that version of Monzon may have been a little too much.
That version of Robinson, he might be, but I think Robinson that took the title from LaMotta, I'd give him the edge over Monzon.
Perhaps I'm not thinking of Robinson quite, early in his career.
Jack,
Okay.
I want to reflect back to something last week. Last week, the name Mike Silver came up about how he said that Tammy Moriello would beat Lennox Lewis. And he said that, what was the other one? Oh, that Mayweather would not have been a good sparring partner for Tony Canzaneri. Well, after the show, somebody who saw the show called me up and said, Frank, I have a better one for you. He said in his book, The Arc of Boxing, he said that Hagler and Carlos Monzon, if they fought in the 1930s, would have been bottom 10 contenders at best. You're muted, Jack. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Frank. I remember that in the book, and I'm saying, come on, are you kidding me? You know what that's like saying that if Roger Clemens pitched for the old-time Yankee teams in the 1920s.
I lost it down, Jack.
You don't
Jack,
hear me?
say that again. Your sound went out. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's the same thing. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
That's the same thing like saying when Roger Clemens, if he pitched in the 1920s for the New York Yankees, the Ruth Gehrig era, and he was on that team, Roger Clemens would be a back-end starter, maybe the fourth starter on that team. It's absurd.
Jack, everybody's entitled to their opinion, okay? And
Yeah, of course.
guys that follow boxing, look, we all have different opinions. But Jack, I am of the belief that sometimes an opinion, even though you can't prove it wrong or right, some of them are just asinine. And I think to say in print publicly that Tammy Moriello could beat Joe Louis or Mayweather, and I'm not the biggest Mayweather fan, but I think he's a great fighter. Don't tell me he can't spar Tony Canzaneri. And the fact that Hagler and Monzon, two of the toughest, most versatile, durable middleweights in middleweight history, couldn't live against Fred Apostle and Freddie Steele. Freddie Steele was a terrific fighter, but come on, Gorilla John, come on.
Exactly. It's ludicrous. I mean that, but listen, he's entitled to his opinion.
And he probably sold a lot of books.
No, I mean, I questioned him who he thought would win between Tyson and Jim Corbett. And he told me he'd pick Corbett. If he had to
No,
pick
he
one
didn't.
or the other. I did when he was spoken Brooklyn College. I like Mike. Don't get me wrong. Mike has his theory. He has his beliefs. And, he's
And some of them are wacky.
I feel that way. But listen, a guy like Russell Peltz would probably agree with most of what Mike's writing about.
There's no way Russell Peltz would say Tammy Moriello could beat Lennox Lewis. He would not say Mayweather couldn't spar Canzaneri, and he would not say Hagler and Monzon couldn't hang in the 1930s.
We have less than a minute. Give me just a quick score on tonight's game, Dolphins Steelers, before we go off.
Dolphins lose by 10. I don't know what the score will be. Tua will probably play catch with the defensive backs on the Steelers. What else we have? Jack, who wins the Alabama-Oklahoma game Friday night?
Oklahoma.
All right, I agree. I agree with that. And next weekend we do have the college playoffs. I think the favorites are going to win.
Yeah, it'll come down. I think Ohio State when all is said and done. I agree with
Well,
you.
and I think they're going to beat Indiana in the final.
Oh, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Absolutely.
All right, Jack.
Okay.
Great show. Everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.